Hi and welcome to video 6. This is my series of basic tutorials for the Octatrack 2. And yesterday I sat down to do a video all about recording your own samples, but got sidetracked as I realised that with the freeze delay I'd covered the basics in my previous video, but there was an awful lot that I hadn't covered and that I didn't particularly understand that well. So I spent the day in the end doing that, and so I thought I'd share my findings with you in this video. They say knowledge is power, and with this thing that's really true. The more you know about it, the better you're going to be with it and the more fun you're going to have with it. And the freeze delay is probably the best thing on this machine so far that I found. So I've made a very simple song. I actually sampled my Rickenbacker 12 string yesterday. I'm using a few of those samples and a kick drum. That's all I've got in this project, just to show off this freeze delay and the variations of it. I think it's very important to understand the maths of the freeze delay. I must admit I didn't at first, and it was only last night that I really kind of grasped this, so I'm going to share this with you. So all the trigs from 8 down to 2 in the 1-2 ratio, which is this one here, where it says 2-4, that is the 1-2 ratio. All the trigs from 8 down to 2 are divisible by 2. So 8 gives you a timing of 128, which is 128 1/256th notes. Okay, that's the equivalent of 2 beats. 7 gives you 64, which is the same as a crotchet. 6 gives you 32, which is the same as a quaver. 5 gives you 16th, which is the same as a semi-quaver, and then we go down to 8, 4, 2, and of course 1 is 1/256th note, so that's a really tiny note, and that's the shortest note on this instrument, the shortest beat if you like, and that kind of governs everything. Everything is a multiple of that 1/256th note. So if we have the time set to 128, that's 128 256ths, so that's half, or if you like, half a bar or 2 beats or a minute, you see? So it's all divisions and subdivisions of that. So in the 1-2 setting we have the 8 trig, which gives you 2 beats, the 7 which gives you 1, the 6 which gives you a quaver if you like, the 5 gives you a semi-quaver, the 4 gives you a demi-semi-quaver, and then so on right down to that tiny little 1/256th note. Now if I go to the other ratio setting, which is 1-3, this is set at 3-4 for that, by the way, because don't forget these are bar settings, they're not to do with this particularly. You've only got 2 for the freeze delay, this one and this one. So when it's on this third light along, you're on the 1-3 setting. All trigs in this 1-3 ratio from 7 down to 2 are divisible by 3. So 7 is 96, 6 is 48, 5 is 24, 4 is 12, 3 is 6, and 2 is 3. And these are all dotted notes. So 7 is 96, that's a dotted crotchet, and then we have dotted quaver, dotted semi-quaver, dotted demi-semi-quaver, and so on and so forth. It's also important to realise that all the trigs from 7 down to 2 in the 1-3 ratio are dotted versions of their counterpart in the 1-2 ratio. Remember that a dot adds on half of the original value. In the 1-2 ratio, trig 7 gives you 64, and in the 1-3, trig 7 gives you 96. I won't keep changing over here, you'll know what I mean. So trig 6 in the 1-2 ratio is 32, and in the 1-3 ratio it's 48, which is 32 dotted if you like. Half of 32 is 16, 32 plus 16 equals 48. Trig 5 gives you 16 in the 1-2 ratio, and the dotted version of that in the 1-3 ratio, which is 24. Half of 16 is 8, 16 plus 8, 24. And so trig 4 is 8 in the 1-2 and 12 in the 1-3. 3 is 4 in the 1-2 ratio and 6 in the 1-3 ratio. And trig 2 is 2 in the 1-2 ratio and 3 in the 1-3 ratio, because half of 2 is 1, 2 plus 1 is 3, so the 1.3 version of that is the dotted version. So 2 dotted becomes 3. There's a lot of maths there. It doesn't matter with trig 8 whether it's 1, 2 or 1, 3, because you get with the 8 and whatever track number you're on, you'll get a 2 beat repeat. You'll get 128 out of 256 repeat. So in that 1:3 ratio, all of the trigs from 7 downwards offer dotted note value repeats. Okay, so remember the base unit of the Octatrack is 1/256th note. It's the shortest note possible on the device. I've said that a couple of times now just to sort of hammer that home. So in other words, you would need 256 of those tiny little notes to fill up a bar of 4/4 on this machine. So that's why 128 256 equals 2 crotchets or 2 beats. So when you hold 8 and the track, that is 128 256 or 2 beats if you like. And if you're on the 2/4 setting and you hold trig 7 and your track, okay, that's a crotchet because that is 64 256ths. I was trying to understand a bit more how it works. So when you press either one of the track buttons or a combination of the trig buttons and the track buttons, what happens is you record a tiny slice of music into a buffer, a kind of a location in the machine. So whatever's coming up gets recorded. That recording is either 2 beats long or 1 beat long or half a beat or a quarter beat, going right the way down to 1/256th, which is pretty crazy, isn't it? So once you've got your freeze delay going, the music carries on in the background. Depending on how you've got your effects to your delay set up, you'll either hear nothing while the freeze delay is working, or you can hear the main track ticking away in the background, and I'll show you how to set that up in a while. If you only press one of the track buttons, what you record is dictated by the time value. So I've got a master track here on track 8, and if I press pad 16, which is for track 8, which is for the master track, and I don't press any of these trigs over here, the time that I've got set up here, in this case 21, that is the time of the delay. So if I press a trig pad and a track pad together, then the timing is dictated by these pads over here, and I'll talk about that a bit more as we go along. So if I crank this timing all the way up to 128, then if I set a delay going on the master track, it will be a 2 beat delay. I'll show you that first of all. So here's the track going on. If I hold the 16 down, say 1, 2, 1, 2, off. So with that 128 set up there, that gives me a 2 beat delay. It records 2 beats worth of music and keeps playing that back. By the way, if you hold function and the time encoder A, it jumps 64, 32, 16, all the convenient ones for 4/4. Now I've got this set to a 1:3 ratio. Third light along is lit, okay, so it doesn't make any difference if I've got the time at 128. If I put this on the other one, the basic 4/4 one, do the same thing, still 2 beats, is it? And if I do this, if I hold the 8 down and the 16, doesn't make any difference, see? Now if I set the time to 64, I'll hold function and scroll back, and the first one I come to is 64. Now I will have a 1 beat delay. Here we go. Like I said in my previous video, it's very important to keep counting. If I take that back up to 128, get it going again, and I do this, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. So if you press one of these trig pads and the track pad, then the timing up here is ignored. I could set this something random like 110. Now if I play it now and use this. It's weird timing. But if I use, say, pad 6 and pad 16, so if you use these pads, then the timing up here is ignored. That time value is ignored because it's all predetermined by these pads here. And obviously as you move from right to left, then the repeats get faster and faster and faster until you're down to just what amounts to a buzzing noise, these last three here probably, because they're so fast. So let's really examine this 1:3 ratio. So trig 7 gives you a repeat value of 96, or a dotted crotchet. Just to remind you once more, a dot adds on half the original value. So 96 256, that equals a dotted crotchet, or if you like 64, which is a crotchet, plus half of 64, which is 32. 64 plus 32 makes 96. I'll get the track going and I'll use trig 7. But if you employ this on the third beat of a bar, you'll clearly hear the dotted crotchet quaver feel, but you need to lift off sharply. So let's just show you that. But it's quite a pleasant result using this trig 7 and the track. With trig 6 plus a track button, you get a repeat value of 48. This one here. This is a dotted quaver, so that's 32 plus 16, 256. Okay, so half of 32 is 16. 32 plus 16 is 48. So when you use this setting, the result is also pleasing and musical, and it's a bit more like a crotchet triplet. Let's just try this one out, shall we? So this is trig 6 and your track button. Trig 5, this gives you a value of 24. This is a dotted semi-quaver. So it's 16 256 plus 8. So half of 16 is 8. 16 plus 8 is 24. Now this doesn't feel very musical. Have a listen to this. This is trig 5 and the track. Doesn't feel too good, does it? So I like to try and make a triplet quaver feel with this, and you can't do it with a value of 24. If you divide 256 by 12, you get 21.3. Obviously you can't do that. So let's try a manual setting of 22 with the A encoder. I will only use the trackpad. So listen to what we've got now. Now this should be pretty close to a triplet quaver. A bit more musical, isn't it? But the default for trig 5, which is 24, definitely doesn't sound very good, does it? Just too slow, isn't it? So that's one to avoid probably. So trig 4 plus your track button, this gives you a repeat value of 12. This is a dotted demi semi-quaver. Okay, so that's 8 256 plus 4 256. This also doesn't feel very musical, so let's just run it so you know. So this is trig 4 and the track. It's not very nice, is it? Not very musical. So to achieve a triplet semi-quaver feel, you need a repeat worth 256 divided by 24. That comes out to 10.6. Again, can't be done. Let's try 10 and we'll try 11 as well. So we're ignoring the trig pad, just setting it up manually here. So we'll try 10, shall we, to start with, and just the trackpad. This should be pretty close to a triplet semi-quaver. not bad. Diddly 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 is what we're aiming for. Let's try 11, see if that's any better. Yeah, it's not quite so good. I think probably 10 is your best bet there. And obviously these trig pads down here, 3, 2 and 1. So trig 3 is 6 256 notes and trig 2 is 3 256 notes. I think it's purely academic because there's a crazy speed involved here. I'll show you this briefly. I'll use 3 then 2. I suppose that's kind of not too bad. This one, and this one even crazier. That number 1 of course is just 1 256 being repeated over and over again. So you just get a buzz really. The 1-2 ratios are very, very straightforward. So 8 is 128 or 2 beats. 7 is 64 or 1 beat. 6 is 32 or half a beat. 5 is 16 or a quarter of a beat. And so on and so forth until you get down to 1. So it halves each time. With the 1-3 ratio, so you have 128, then you have 96, and then you go down in halves. 48, 24, 12, 6, 3, and then of course 1 at the end there. And you can of course use more than one trig while you're playing. So I could set this back to a ratio of 1-2. You have to work right to left. You can get it going and lift and press a pad to the left and you'll get faster and faster repeats, but if you come to the right you won't hear any change. So we'll do that. We'll start here. 7, 6, 5, 4. You can see how that works, but you can't press more than one pad down at a time. It won't make any difference. If you try and come the other way, so I'll go from 4, so it doesn't make any difference, but if I go the other way, it will work, you see. Let's have a quick look at the setup page. So double tap the effects 2. Tape is off, I spoke about that before. Sync is on, so it syncs to the tempo of the project. Lock is on. And all lock does is simulate rotating the send encoder. So if I do this, see that's doing the same thing, and obviously as it's set to 11 it's using that time for the delay. So that lock is on. So let's talk a little bit about this pass control. The pass control on this setup page sets how the dry signal is routed when the lock is set to on. When the pass is on, the delay buffer level is controlled by the volume. I'm going to set the pass on, okay? Now, I'm going to go back to the main page and the delay buffer level is controlled by the volume. So let's get this going. So you hear a mixture of the main track. There's no delay. And there's the delay coming in. You get a bit of a mixture. You might like that, you might like to hear the main signal and the buffer. So, when the pass is off, you only ever hear delay buffer, you don't hear any of the dry signal. And here of course the direct control on the setup page controls the dry signal. So turn that down. But when I hit the buffer, that has no bearing on it at all. So generally I think have the pass control off, the direct full on, and of course on the other page have the volume full on, the feedback full on, the send full on, and the bass and the width are of course your filters if you want to filter the sound. It's all down to what you prefer. Now I've got a database that I've made and I'll put this on the screen now, and it kind of summarises everything I've been saying in this video. Let me know if you'd like a copy of it, and I'll put it in my Dropbox and leave a link in the description below. So it's all about maths and understanding that the lowest common denominator is this 1/256th note, and you'd need 256 of those to fill up an entire bar. So 128 256ths is the highest repeat, the longest repeat we can get, which is a half or 2 beats. You can set up individual tracks for freeze delay. So I've got track 1, which is the Rickenbacker 12 string, and track 2 is the kick drum. That's all I've got. So on track 1 I've got a timing of 10 set here. So if I press pad 9, that relates to track 1, that's track 1. So if I get this going, that's my semi-quaver triplet. So if I press 4 and 9, which is the closest thing to that, it's too slow, isn't it? Hence my 10 seems about right, isn't it? If I change that to 22, I've got my quaver triplet. If I press 5 and 9, it's too slow, because that's 24, whereas a lot better, isn't it? And that's the 12-string guitar. Track 2 is the kick drum. Track 2 is, you can probably see that faint there, T2, so it's pad 10. So I've got it set to 10, so there should be semi-quaver triplets on the kick drum now. So if I set that to 22, I should get quaver triplets on the kick drum. If it's just too slow, isn't it? Just a hair too slow, isn't it? I don't know if you can hear that or not. It's a tiny amount out, but it is out, isn't it? And of course you can have all 3 going at once. You don't have to be on the actual track up here to make the freeze delay work, because it's all done on the button. So I could have this on, well, have it on the master track, but I can have the 12-string guitar kicking, kick drum, or both, and of course I've got the master track. Let's bring the master track down to 10. That's everything. I'm sorry if you were expecting a video on how to record your own samples. That's coming up, but I kind of got sidetracked, but I thought it made sense to do this straight after my first video on the freeze delay, so that I could consolidate what I'd learnt, what I'd shown you, and what I discovered yesterday. So now I think we've got a pretty good picture of how to use the freeze delay, and I hope you enjoy having a go at that. So anyway, thank you very much for watching. If you enjoyed this, please give it a like and consider subscribing to my channel. It would be great if you could give me a small donation to help me carry on doing what I do. You can either do that on YouTube, or you can do it on my website, which is www.daddylonglegs.com. On my website I've got tons and tons of crazy stuff, all the musical stuff I do, all the instruments I play, all the techie stuff I do like this. It's very interesting, have a look at that. Anyway, thank you very much for watching, and you'll see me in my next video.